Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We will be joined by a very special guest and Julio Barea, but as we are waiting to get started, if you want to drop your name, where your registry is located in the chat. I always love hearing where you're joining from and getting to know you all a bit. We'll get started in just a moment. Always great to hear from you and those of you who are taking the time out of your busy day to join. I am Rachel Shapiro, the head of marketing here at Ally. I know I've met some of you in person, and I'm really excited that you're able to join this really great webinar that we are about to share with you all. I'll quickly go over some housekeeping items. A few helpful notes for you all. The windows on your screen can be resized and moved. You can set it up however you'd like. And there are icons at the bottom of your screen that open tools that let you ask for help and download slides. There's the volume settings, the view presentation. You can ask a question. You can see the presenter bios. You will see an opportunity to answer some survey questions. And there will be a recording that you can share, rewatch, and we will send that out as soon as the webinar is over, probably within a few days. We'll have it available online. For some background on who we are, some of you may or may not know this, but Ally is part of a broader healthcare tech organization called LiveTech, with the goal of supporting the post-acute healthcare space through software that transform aging care for seniors. So if you see the name LiveTech around, it's my email signature for those of you who I email on a regular basis. Just want to give a shout out to our program sponsors and the organization behind LiveTech, behind Ally, and all the great things that we do. I see some introductions came in on the chat. We have Brad and Susan. Susan, I think I met you recently. Nice to see you joining. And I think I will pass it off to Julio at this time to kick off the webinar.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the latest in Ally's webinar series. Ally, as Rachel told you, is a software that really is the premier software in the registry space. My name is Julio Barea, Chief Revenue Officer for Ally, and I'm very thrilled to be here today. We have a surprise guest. Today we have Marisa Snook, President and CEO for corecubed, which is really one of the, if not the top marketing expert in the home care space. And today we're going to talk a little bit about something that comes up constantly. I speak to registries every day, and the question we get asked a lot is, how do you stand out in an incredibly crowded home care market without really losing sight that the registry is a unique model? It's different for all of us. So Marisa, first, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you joining.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. So before we get started, for anyone who's not familiar, can you start by sharing a bit about yourself and what corecubed does?
Sure. I am Marisa Snook, the President and CEO of corecubed. I've been here for over 20 years. And we specialize in care marketing, specifically home care, home health care, and hospice agencies. And that includes registries, of course. And because we focus entirely on the agency, we understand your pain points. We understand your audience. And we're a full service marketing company. So everything from digital marketing to print to advertising, billboards, car wraps, we do it all. Video production even.
I love that about you folks. I see you folks all the time. We spoke about this in prep for the show, and I see you have a lot of presence out in the space. And I love the fact that you're full service, the fact that you do SEO, the fact that you do digital marketing, the fact that you do everything from soup to nuts. And I don't think there's anybody in the space dedicated to this business that does it the way you guys do it. So thank you so much for being in this world, because I think it's very needed. So speaking of very needed, let's talk about the challenge. So agencies and registries, they both provide care. They do the same thing. They have people that provide care for people who need it, but the way they operate and the way they market has to be very different. And so, Marisa, in your experience, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see that registries make when they try to market like an agency?
Well, I think the mistakes stem from the fact that I feel like registries are often looked on like the evil stepchild of home care. And I say that because you see those lists on the websites, right? Of, this is what a home care agency does. This is what a registry does. And you've got like red X's on the registries. And this has led to registries being afraid to market themselves for what they are, which is a disservice to the customer and honestly to the positives of your own business model. So they end up using, what I see is they end up using generic messaging to try and hide the fact that they're a registry. They end up sounding too much like a traditional home care agency instead of leveraging the things that makes the registry model distinctive. When you use phrases like our caregivers or imply a direct employee relationship, it causes families to create compliance issues. And obviously we don't want that because the fact of the matter is a lot of people don't understand what a registry is or how it can benefit them compared to an agency. So you really do need to start right out of the gate with educating the consumer. But what I see is there is sort of a motivation or registries often think that people are coming to them for price only. And so they start with this heavy sales process right from the get-go and not educate first. And I think that is a misconception about the consumer. I think you really need to start out by communicating your unique role as a matchmaker and a support resource instead of, implying that direct employer relationship, or you could miss a really good opportunity to build trust with the consumer right from the start.
I'm so happy you said that because it is true, right? In any business model, we have to, whether it's ours or yours or the folks in the registry space, you have to know who you are. And then you have to know why you're here. And then you have to know what you stand for. And then you have to know how to explain that to people so they come use you because they like who you are, they like why you're here, and they like what you stand for. And you're right. I see it all the time in registries that they seem to be afraid. I hate to use the word afraid, but it does feel caution in describing what you do. And the benefits of the registry space are amazing, right? I mean, you get to choose, you can choose your caregiver. You can negotiate the rates with your caregiver. You have access to platforms that can help you manage your relationship with your caregiver that you wouldn't normally have with a traditional agency. So there's a lot of benefits to it. So let's talk about that. If the first step is differentiation, how should registries think about clarifying that value to families? What's the message we should help them send?
I would say own your strengths. And those are, of course, choice, flexibility, cost transparency, and empowering the client. Families, I believe they really do want to understand their options and the benefits of each care model. It's going to help them make the better choice for them. So position your registry as a trusted matchmaker. You're an expert in vetting, connecting, supporting independent caregivers that are tailored to a family's needs, rather than somebody who simply places staff. And obviously be transparent, fully transparent about the legal and financial responsibilities. And use plain language so that you can help them understand what it means for a family to be the caregiver's employer, and how your support really streamlines that process for them. Because the way that you talk about your matching process and your network quality and your ongoing support is really going to set you apart from both agencies and the gig platforms that are out there.
Definitely far and above the gig platforms for sure. And I love that you said things like empowerment. I think that is underutilized as a differentiator. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, as someone who's had someone under care, the ability, you can feel out of control at times. And to your point, an agency, I have many agency partners with my other software, but they do have staffing needs to fill. They have hours per week they have to provide for a caregiver. They're going to go and say, who's the caregiver that I can give you, not so much that matches you, but it suits the staffing and hours needs that I have. Registries don't have that problem. They can really focus on that matchmaking part. And I think, as you said, trust and transparency eliminates confusion. And most families in the time when you have someone to care for can be extremely confused. It's overwhelming to be out there. So having a partner you can trust is extremely powerful.
Yeah, it's an emotional decision, right? Home care. So
it is
leading with that
emotional.
trust is going to help with that emotional decision making.
Yeah, and I think becoming a trusted consultant in the care of a loved one is the message you send. Look, I'm not here to serve me. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to, here's all the caregivers I have. Here's all the things that I use to define a caregiver. And you choose. I'm going to give you a series of people to choose from. Meet them, talk to them, figure out what they want to get paid, negotiate what they want to get paid. That's a lot of power that we don't see in any other business model. So I love
Absolutely.
that you encourage that sort of thing. So you work with a ton of registries, Marisa. I know corecubed is the premier marketing company for registries. So a lot of registries still rely heavily on referrals and word of mouth. Are there any digital strategies? Because I know you're very competent in that area, like SEO, reviews, blogs, that you think might work in the registry
Yes,
space?
absolutely. I think you should prioritize local SEO. And you can start very simply by optimizing your Google business profile using high intent keywords. And what I mean by that are using words like home care, elder help, caregiver near me. These are words that people type into search when they're actively looking for a caregiver, not just doing the research, but like they need somebody now. So that's what I mean by high intent keywords. Put those into your Google business profile for visibility. Work on those online reviews. People forget that you can ask for reviews and give them a link to your Google business profile so that it makes it really easy for them to leave you an online review. And you can ask both families and those caregivers to leave reviews. It's going to build that trust that we've been talking about, and it helps potential clients see the quality of your matches and your communication. I can't emphasize it enough because it's so many businesses forget about asking for reviews or just underplay the importance of it. Blogging is another easy thing to do to address your digital marketing needs. You can answer common family questions, clarify differences between registries and agencies, share success stories. There's a lot of things that you can do to educate through content that you add to your website. But educational content isn't just blogs. You can do videos. That's a very important way to communicate in today's day and age. A lot of people don't have the patience to read, so they like the videos. Frequently asked questions, infographics, just basically position your registry as an expert resource, which can help draw inquiries into your website.
It's interesting you say reviews and how important they are. I know that Rachel is always telling me social proof, right? Where we need social proof. People want to hear from social proof. I know I read reviews for everything I do. The first thing I do when I'm ordering a service, whether it's a plumber, an electrician, pest control, getting my car fixed, the first thing I do is I look locally because I like local, and then I go read the reviews. And if the first 5 or 6 reviews are positive, then I'm pretty good with what I'm gonna select. And I think that's important. So it sounds like when you put together blogs, videos, SEO, and review management, you're kind of professionalizing the entire marketing process rather than having folks kind of throw something up here and see what sticks. It sounds like you have a really strong plan around that for how to professionalize the entire marketing approach.
Yes, with any marketing, having a strategic plan and then measuring that plan is so important. People often forget about the measuring part because, like you said, they'll just, like spaghetti on a wall, they'll just try a bunch of different things. They won't stick with it long enough, and then they don't measure for results because you obviously want to do more of what's working and less of what's not. And how do you do that if you're not measuring?
So once we've reached that lead, right? You've gone out, you've done your marketing, and somebody clicks here, clicks there, picks up the phone and calls. I hear a lot of owners talk about conversion rates. I see them talk about conversion rates of digital marketing versus referral marketing, right? And you talked about measuring what you're doing. So So let's touch on that just a little bit. What's a good follow-up process or series of things you can do to keep those warm leads from going cold and to turn those warm leads into paying referrals?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I get it a lot where people say to me, "Well, we're getting leads from the digital marketing. We're asking the questions, or we've got on the form it says, 'Where did you hear about us?' And we're getting these leads, but we're not converting them." And that has to do directly with that follow-up process. But I think it all starts with asking the question, why didn't they convert? And were they looking for like a different service? Are you driving the wrong leads to your website? In other words, was it cost? Or was it because there was an issue in the follow-up when talking to the person who was looking for services? And I have to say that I find more often than not, it's the follow-up issue. That's the reason why those leads are not converting. Maybe you didn't return the call fast enough, or after they filled out a form, you didn't get back to them fast enough. You didn't have like an email response that was automated after they filled out a form so that they knew you got their question. Maybe the sales team member isn't properly trained in how to handle a sales call with active listening, really listening to the person and then addressing their needs rather than doing that hard sale and not listening. So I would argue that in order to increase those conversions, it's not just about driving the right leads to your website with your marketing, but it's also having that structured follow-up afterwards. You have follow-up emails that go out automatically through like a drip campaign so that they know that you've gotten their request, and then follow up quickly with a phone call that's going to personalize the experience to them. And if it's something that takes them longer to make a decision, if you have that educational content through email, like helpful resources, stories from a successful match, it's going to keep your service top of mind while they look at other potential solutions for their family member. Just be consistent, have it be warm, friendly, and focus on building that trust and that authentic relationship with them. And I'm telling you, so many times, so many companies miss that consistent follow-up that I have seen companies get that business from another agency that might have been cheaper or might have been whatever. They got the business simply because they followed up and the person felt more comfortable with them. And I have to say, don't forget to use some sort of CRM to track those inquiries, because that's going to keep them from falling through the cracks. But it's also going to help you in measuring for results and determining which marketing channels are bringing your best leads, the ones that are converting to clients the most.
It's interesting. I think if I was to summarize what I heard from you just now is that the registries that grow the best and the fastest are treating every single inquiry like a relationship, right? They're tracking the touch points. They're doing prompt follow-up. They're personalizing their outreach. They're tracking it in a CRM. They're really treating each lead like gold. I had a mentor many, many years ago, and used to tell me that I used to actually sell Yellow Pages advertisement. I cold call the Yellow Pages to sell advertisements for the following quarter for a company called Bell South, for those who are old enough to remember back in the day. And he would tell me, treat every single person you talk to like $100 bill. Would you just crumple it up and throw it away, or would you carefully tuck it away in your pocket and treat it with the respect that it deserves? And I've literally followed that throughout my entire career, and it applies to all industries. And so in this one, and if you treat people like people, because as you mentioned earlier, they're in a really hard time in their life, right? Somebody they care about, somebody they love has a need. They can't do it themselves. They need help. And so being the person you're talking to in that time, training your people to have that compassionate follow-up and thoroughness in the inquiry is really important. I love that you guys talk about that. That's really neat. So let's move on a little bit and talk about compliance. It's the bugaboo of the registry space. You mentioned it when you first spoke about they might be too cautious, and in being too cautious, use language that implies an employer-employee relationship, which is something we want to shy away from when you're working in the registry. So, marketing language, right? How do you use marketing language that either does or doesn't cross those compliance lines? And what should an owner watch out for? And how do you guys help them with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you want to avoid any language that, like you said, implies that direct employer relationship. So instead of saying hire or our caregivers, you can use phrases like we refer vetted caregivers or independent professionals in our network. And you want to avoid implying that you direct or supervise or discipline the caregiver like an employer would. It's more than semantics, obviously, when you use this language. So it's really crucial protection for maintaining compliance and reinforcing your true business model. And I think when you look at it that way, you won't try and shy away from using the proper language that's going to clarify for everyone. Educational content, again, is going to be key. You can, whether you post it on your website or you email it out, it's going to help families understand all of these distinctions. And it's going to reduce the confusion and that compliance scrutiny that you see sometimes.
Yeah, and registries don't always tackle that head on. We talked about the fact that they try to minimize. It's almost if you're ashamed to admit you're a registry when you should be proud that you're a registry.
So true.
Service, you are, and I work with registry owners all the time, and they have it when they're amongst themselves. There's a lot of conversations internally about what we have to be careful for and how we have to speak. And I remember when I first entered the registry space, I had lunch with some folks at a franchise conference, and I sat down for an hour and a half and listened to 6 registry owners, and they spent their entire lunch talking about, well, what do I say in this scenario? And what word should I use here? And I was fascinated by the conversation because it was such a focus on semantics. And I learned from that registry owners take a lot of pride in what they do and how they do it. So we don't want to hear things like we're not one of those registries, or caregivers are real employees, not contractors. And I think registries arguably might inadvertently put themselves on the defensive when they don't need to be. So you mentioned education. How can a registry push back with possible community negative impressions of the registry space? And what kind of education and clarity can they provide? Because you mentioned it a little earlier.
Well, again, I think you're right on the money that it feels that a lot of this stems from registries feeling like they're less than. And you aren't less than. You are more often than not the right choice for families, the better choice for their needs. And you need to lean into that understanding. So if you see, people who are other companies that are talking down to registries, take the high road and lead with transparency and reinforce what makes your registry credible and trustworthy. Focus on the what we are language, because you can shine that light. It's going to be the right choice for a lot of families. Outline those benefits and safeguards that are unique to the registry model, rather than comparing yourself directly against the agencies. Use those testimonials that we talked about from the families and the caregivers that speak to the satisfaction, the empowerment, and those positive outcomes that come from the registry approach. And provide those, what I'm going to call plain English educational materials, and nurture industry partnerships. That can really shift the conversation from rivalry to an informative choice, showing that both of these models share or serve distinct needs in the industry and the care continuum.
Yeah, I think I love what you said about it's not one versus the other, right? It's 2 different care models. Pick which one works for you.
Exactly.
And I think they're both valuable. They're structured differently. They use different words. They use different language. But in the end, they're both providing care to people who need it. It's just a client choice as to how they want that care to be provided. And I think that's a great message to send. So let's talk a little bit about what happens next. So if I'm a brand new registry and I'm starting from scratch and I want to do my marketing, what's one area you would have them focus on next? First, excuse me.
I would say the first thing to do is scrutinize your messaging. Can it be made more clear? Refine your elevator pitch and ensure that every touch point that a consumer might have, your website, your print materials, conversations, are going to accurately and consistently communicate your unique value as a registry. Start with one marketing channel. You got to start somewhere, like your website and local SEO that we talked about, and master it first before diversifying your efforts into all the different marketing strategies that you could choose. Because cohesive branding and messaging are going to build that trust that we talked about and make every subsequent marketing effort that you do stronger and set the stage to attract and educate and convert clients right from the start.
That's fantastic advice. I know that we have hundreds of registry clients, and it appears to me they're all pretty successful and they seem to run good businesses. And I think those who are clear, consistent, and compliant, they do win the clients faster. So you're giving excellent advice. If you're a new registry and you're on this call and you want advice, I think I would definitely give Marisa a call, because what they're talking about is exactly the way this should be done. So I've really gotten a lot out of this. It's the first time you and I met, and I really appreciate the fact that you jump on. And I'm hoping that everyone today walked away with at least one new idea to test out in your business. For those who want to refine their marketing strategy, please reach out to Marisa's team at corecubed. And if you're looking for ways to strengthen your registry operations from compliance to caregiver payments, the Ally team is always happy to be a resource. Marisa, anything you'd like to tell the group? And then we're going to pivot to questions after this, but any final thoughts on this?
Be proud of who you are and what your service is, because you are needed in this industry. And I will tell you, I know someone who said they were never going to use a registry, and they are using a registry for their loved ones. So just know that you provide a very valuable service and shine that light.
Perfect. So there I have a couple questions for you folks that I'd like you to answer. Then we'll see if we have any questions from the group. So I'm going to bring up a slide here for you folks. Let's see here. Oops. So I'd like to launch a poll. And you guys will have to forgive me. I have lost my
Julio.
Thank you.
It's not pulled up on a screen. They can find it by going to the engagement tools through their menu. And if they have an interest in anyone reaching out from Ally or from corecubed or learning more about our services or corecubed, they can reach out. I know we have some customers on the call. Great to see you. But if there's anyone else who would like to learn more about Ally or corecubed, we're giving you direct access to submit a yes or a no on the engagement tool. And then we do have some questions we can transition into.
Perfect. Thank you very much for bailing me out on that one, Rachel. I think I was drowning in deep waters there trying to find the poll. All right. Perfect. So we have questions?
Yes. Can you see it, or should I read out loud? We have one from Natalie.
Let's see here.
I can read it.
Okay.
Do you have any really practical advice for gaining more Google reviews? We do send the direct shortened link from Google, ask people over the phone, text the link, email, but even when people say they will leave the review, I think they forget. We used to be able to post reviews on behalf of families or elderly clients who aren't tech savvy, but Google does not allow that anymore.
This is true. Yes, this is true. You do have to have a Gmail account in order to leave a Google review. And you can't fake it, really. I mean, that's obviously frowned upon. And yes, people forget. So I say use a reputation management software like corecubed has the RISE program. I know there are other programs out there that work similarly. Basically, what it does is goes through an email process of reminding them if they don't leave a review. So 2 days later, it will send a follow-up from the first email saying, just a reminder. And then a few more days later, they'll send a third reminder. That works really well because we're all very busy and we have good intentions, but life gets in the way. So having a system that does auto reminders like that is going to improve how many people are going to actually follow through and leave that review.
Thank you, Marissa. And I could speak to that. I owe a review to the home health agency that helps my family with my daughter's care. And I told them I would do it. And I'm happy to do it. I really want to help them build their business. But I did forget the one time I went in, the link wasn't working. So Natalie, I would say that we really do want to help. I know the families you work with really want to help, but just sometimes we forget. So I have not heard about these reputation management tools that can remind them from the software without it feeling like a nudge from the registry side. So I think that sounds like a good suggestion to me. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, Marissa, any other questions, folks?
I don't know that I see any other that came to us directly.
Okay. So I guess we should end it up. Marissa, first, thank you so much for joining. I got a lot out of this call. I'm really looking forward to hearing more from you folks over time. Folks, if you're on this call or you listen to this call post-fact, if you're interested in marketing for the registry space, give corecubed a call. And if you're interested in learning how we can help you guys maintain compliance and help you manage your referral business, you can give Ally a call as well. Otherwise, come back and see us again on our next webinar and have a great afternoon.
Thank you all.